we hear Krishna speak about the neophyte devotee, and he says I'm not saying that you're one, but just like I'm saying, they can say I think the word you used was infatuated, and so they can say like the neophyte devotee may be infatuated with the form of Krishna in the temple. He bows down, loves to taking pictures of it, hanging on his refrigerator, going to the temple every day, offering money to the deity in the temple, and so on. But Bhagavatam tells us that that's a neophyte devotee. It seems like they're totally absorbed in Krishna, but they don't see Krishna everywhere. They don't see Krishna, particularly it says, within the hearts of all living beings. So they're very respectful to the deity in the temple, but they don't treat the devotees well, and they don't treat the people in general well. They don't see Krishna in them. So moving from the neophyte devotee to the more advanced Madhyam, it means seeing Krishna in everyone. And that means that's something that we really need to practice.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a Bhakti Yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York City, Kaustubha. Welcome to the show, welcome to the farm, and welcome to the Wisdom of the Sages Retreat Live. It's a special Q&A day today where we bring members of the retreat forward, get to meet them, pick their brain, hear their story, and have them ask their question. We try our best to answer. But before we go on, Miss Mara, anything you want to before your announcements, Miss Mara? You're doing a lot of work. Like we're working her to the bone this weekend. I'm worked to the bone, but I do a little different type of work. It requires me just sitting and talking, but that's exhausting.
You're chopping down trees and things like that.
Down dead trees. Yeah.
Yes.
And today we're splitting wood. Everybody's invited.
I'm not
but
splitting.
You're not splitting wood. You got your hands full. Want to say thank you. And my mom's here, and we're celebrating her birthday today. But how are you doing this weekend besides the frazzledness?
It's always a little bit of a struggle. Like, I feel like, especially actually with Kaustubha Prabhu here, is like I always have this like image of wanting to serve. Listen. Of wanting to serve. Kaustubha's like, oh boy. Of wanting to serve Kaustubha in a really nice way. I know he is sort of a high state, very safe. But then whenever he comes up, it's always for the Wisdom of the Sages retreat. So we have 50 people here, and I'm running like 17 different directions and totally pulling my hair out. And I'm like, I can't deal with you, Kaustubha. I hope somebody gets you a cup of tea or something. I know we should serve him better than we are, but I just don't. And same thing with Grandma Terry also. I'm getting that feeling with.
Perfectly content.
I appreciate that. But, so I'm always.
Before you came into the scene, I was out in the ice box.
It's true. At least we warmed it up a little for you.
Now I'm in the master bedroom.
It's true. It's true. So.
Yeah, I want to say that the spirit of this retreat is so nice. People have such a sweet attitude.
I was thinking we came back from Italy and we're like, wow, that was the best. What Italy? And I think we could say the same about this too.
Such a good retreat.
Yeah.
This, me and Mara were just talking a little pillow talk.
Okay.
Little pillow talk. Is that inappropriate to say?
Just don't use any.
We were talking.
Err on the side of caution.
You don't have to envision anything. And she was saying, this is such a great group of people. And I was saying, yeah, it's a great group of people. She's like, these are people that like, I like them. I like them in our life. Right.
Yeah, we were sharing that this morning. Deep appreciation.
Yeah, then we got in a pillow fight. All right.
Yes.
Thank you. Urban Devi today via the Bhakti Center. Rukmini Devi is leading that. It's 11 a.m. to 12:30.
So that's online.
Yep, that's an online offering. And our show tomorrow is going to be at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. It's going to be another Q&A show, live. And then
note the change in time.
Change in time. But then Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we will also have a show on Thursday this week. It'll be at 7 a.m.
That's a special Thursday one.
Yeah, special Thursday one. Yeah, Bhakti
You're
Recovery Group.
interviewing.
Anniversary, 5-year anniversary.
Bhakti recovery anniversary.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, great.
Let's dive
Okay.
right in, huh?
Thanks, Mayor. Let's dive right in. Let's get our questions. Let's get our questioners up front. Who's first, Mr. K?
I think it's Bhakti CJ.
Bhakti CJ. Everybody's talking about Bhakti CJ. He's the new kid in town, Bhakti CJ. Everybody's talking about him. Everybody likes him. He's a nice guy. Got a good attitude.
I'm right.
Doing a lot of seva. Got him moving logs, wheeling Grandma Terry around, washing dishes. How are you? So, CJ, you got to talk right into this microphone, right to the top. Maybe Kaustubha gives today. I gave it all day yesterday. He didn't appreciate it. So, okay.
Thank
Gonna
you.
put up a
Hare
boundary.
Krishna.
Welcome, CJ. Good to have
Thank
you.
you.
Great to get to know you.
It's good to be here. I love everybody here so much. This is the best group of people I've ever been around in my entire life. Hands down.
Great.
Great people.
You know, if I was to see someone when I was like 14 years old, our generation, with a tattoo on their face that said 1866, I'd be like, what the hell? This guy. Is that a gang? I'd be like calling, special forces. But this is the sweetest guy in the world.
Other people still think that.
Yeah. Times change, huh? You get a tattoo right on your face, not a big deal. Get a job. You can get a job. When our generation, we're like, oh, don't get any tattoos below the elbow. You'll never get a job. And I was like, I don't care. All right, let's go. Let's keep this.
Ready for my question?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm eager for Bhakti, and I love hearing and reading about Krishna.
Me too.
I'm genuinely infatuated with Krishna. But sometimes my heart doesn't catch up with my brain, if that makes sense. So how do we bridge that gap? How does Bhakti move from being intellectual and stuck in our head to something we truly feel in our heart? And what does that love look like? So long story short, I want to know what love is, and I want you to show me.
Woo woo.
You ask Raghunath to show you. You want to be a little careful.
Let's start with our pinkies. So, good.
Would you like to start?
Well, the fact that you said you're infatuated with Krishna, I think it's pretty good. I think that doesn't sound intellectual at all. It sounds like, oh, Krishna touches your heart. It warms your heart. I will say, in my own life, to the degree that I let Krishna in, he'll stay. To the degree that I don't invite him in, he'll sort of disappear. He'll take a step back. And so, they say God is a gentleman. You must invite him, or he will not come into your life. Krishna is like a gentleman. You got to invite him. We got to go out of our way to invite him. We have to and just like if you don't have an attraction to anything, it's good to regulate. That's what sadhana bhakti is. It's a regulation of a spiritual practice.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we do it? Because we tend to be unregulated. If someone comes up to me and says, yeah, I signed up for a yoga membership and I'm going to do yoga this month. How much are they going to do compared to the person who says, I signed up for yoga this month and I'm going to do yoga for an hour a day, 4 days a week? The person who's explicit will always win out on the person who's implicit. So when we're explicit, we set parameters and boundaries and schedules because we do it when we don't feel like doing it. Because some days I'm not feeling so spiritual. I don't feel like rising early. I don't feel like having that time in the morning. I don't feel like having that time in the evening. And so it just gets pushed and other things become prioritized. So when I regulate it, and that's what sadhana bhakti is, we develop a taste for it. If I just went I don't jog, but if I went jogging today, it'd feel miserable. But if you jog for like 5 days in a row, it starts to feel good. And you start to be like, I like this. And so we have to develop that taste in the material world, and we have to develop that taste in the spiritual world too. And then we get to this point of eagerness. We wake up early and think, oh, Krishna. Even when we wake up in the middle of the night, we think, oh, Krishna. We get excited about our time with Krishna. And that's the infatuation. I think you have that infatuation. How to grow it, you just add more to it. You add a little bit more to it every day. And next thing you know, it's like, that's all you want to do. And that's called retirement. You know what I mean? That's all you do. All you're doing is thinking about, I'm thinking about retirement all the time. I'm fortunate because sort of my work in the world, I take people to India. I do teacher trainings where it's all about Bhakti. I do retreats like this. So it's like my work in the world is I get to talk about Krishna, remember Krishna, think about Krishna, study about Krishna, you know. So I'm lucky. And you can do that too. You can do that. You're smart and charismatic, and you can do that. But some people generally they have times in the day that are this is God time. This is my work time. This is my God time. This is my family time. This is my workout time. This is my God time in the evening. So we try to insert a focused amount of God time in there, and eventually we want to increase it because it's sweetly, sweetly addictive.
Wow. Very nice. Thank you, Raghunath.
Dick.
I was
Kaustubha, please share.
well, there's another song out there about love. You can't hurry
There's
love,
many.
right? You can't hurry love.
You can't hurry love.
Yeah. And that comes from the Supremes.
I thought it came from the. I thought it came from the Stray Cats.
Stray Cats.
Stray Cats did that.
You're so far off.
No, no.
Stray
The
Cats.
Stray Cats did do that song, my friend. It was a. It was a.
Can't
Maybe it
Hurry
was a
Love?
cover of the Supremes.
I don't know about that. But
How about "Love is higher than a mountain, thick"?
Ain't no
Love
mountain
is higher than a mountain. Love is thicker than. Is that
thicker than water?
thicker than water?
Okay. Any case, you can't hurry love. And so w- it's we hear this analogy in the Chaitanya Charitamrita of the growth of bhakti being like they use this word creeper. We don't say creeper so much. And
We don't say creeper. What do we say,
it's
Mayor?
like a vine, I suppose.
A vine.
But yeah, it's something that's at first you don't even see it, and you might wait a long time for it even to begin to sprout,
Mm.
and then finally you see it sprout, and all along you have to take good care of it, and then you can't hurry it. You just can't make it happen faster. You can
Mm.
do everything right,
Mm.
and then you have to be patient on top of it.
Good.
And then you see that it starts to grow, and then it's going to something. Then you see, wow, this is growing faster than I could imagine. You turn back the next day, and it's like growing a whole
Mm.
lot. And so bhakti is like that, and a lot of it we may not see the advancement that we're making because it's all underground still, but lifetimes and lifetimes of impressions are being burned, you know, and then eventually it pokes itself up, and it can grow faster than you think. But the real fast growth, it's just like that seed when it finally sprouts and comes above the earth, and then it gets the direct sunlight, then it can really like shoot up because it was feeling some warmth from that sun when it was under the ground. But when it's actually taking in the sun directly, it's like its growth can become very fast. And we're kind of like covered by the ground of our own anarthas, and it makes it very difficult for us to absorb ourselves. But it's in absorption that the tremendously quick, we hear all these like, say, for instance, quotes about the holy name,
Mhm.
where you just chant it one time, it can give you Krishna praying.
Krishna.
But the thing is, it's because we're not fully absorbed in it, that the progress is so much slower. So we have to come to that place where we can deeply absorb our mind in the holy name, and then that progress will become faster than we can imagine. But it may take us a very long time to get to that place where we can really absorb the mind. And Krishna understands that. Like in the Gita, he's saying, what's the first thing he says? Always think of me. Just absorb your mind always in me. But if you can't do that, right, then he says, then do all the regulations of one who's becoming absorbed. But even that is like really hard for, like, just say like regulated chanting of japa. That's like practicing becoming absorbed. But for a lot of people, that's really hard. Krishna says, that's okay. Then work for me. then take your mind, which you have trouble absorbing in me directly, and engage it in serving me. And in that way, your mind becomes absorbed in me. And so there's all these options that we have in order to become absorbed. But that I have my theory is that there's this path that we take in bhakti that goes from acting dutifully to taking in knowledge, and then that knowledge has to mature into something called wisdom. And that's like, it's getting from that theoretical level to the realized level that the mind begins to become peaceful and you can absorb it. And but so if and then from absorption, so it goes from duty to knowledge to wisdom to absorption and then to love. And but that, I don't think it's like, like it's like they're all evenly spaced. But I think you can go from duty and knowledge, you can get quick. And then to get from knowledge to wisdom, it's like that may take a long time. Like if you saw it on a chart, that one would kind of be like maybe even almost level, like for a long way, you know. But that's where we need to focus, I think. We get a lot of theoretical knowledge about Krishna, Bhagavan Krishna. We know so much about him. It's incredible, right? We that a person could go from zero to knowing all about God, what he looks like, what is dear to him, what's special to him, how he dresses, how he relates to his devotees, things that he says, things that he's done. That is knowledge that's just like beyond. It's like, who else knows that stuff? And we get all, but it's theoretical knowledge in a sense. It's we're not seeing it, we're not feeling it. And so we need to kind of, it's by grace that we get it, but we need to prepare ourselves to receive that grace and to absorb ourselves in that grace. And so there's all this other preliminary kind of stuff that we can really focus on. Like when we see Krishna, we hear Krishna speak about the neophyte devotee. And he says, I'm not saying that you're one, but just like I'm saying, they can say I think the word you used was infatuated. And so they can say, like, the neophyte devotee may be infatuated with the form of Krishna in the temple. He bows down, loves to, taking pictures of it, hanging on his refrigerator, going to the temple every day, offering money to the deity in the temple, and so on. But Bhagavatam tells us that that's a neophyte devotee. It seems like they're totally absorbed in Krishna, but they don't see Krishna everywhere. They don't see Krishna, particularly, it says, within the hearts of all living beings. So they're very respectful to the deity in the temple, but they don't treat the devotees well, and they don't treat the people in general well. They don't see Krishna in them. So moving from the neophyte devotee to the more advanced Madhyam, it means seeing Krishna in everyone, and that means that's something that we really need to practice. But that it's those kind of things. I think I also have, well, it's a related theory, and that is that we have knowledge of Bhagavan Sri Krishna, but we don't have realization of it. We're not seeing those pastimes. And we also have knowledge of Brahman and Paramātmā, but we may not even have realization of those. So we may have the highest knowledge, but have zero realization. And I think what turns people off to religion is they see people, it's kind of like you've got this Bhagavan faith, theoretical knowledge, but you don't have any Brahman realization, which means you're not detached. You have all these false identities, and that creates all kind of conflict in your life. And so people see religious people that don't have Brahman realization. They're like, this whole thing's fake. When someone, and by Brahman realization, what I mean is, I'm not this body, I'm not this mind, I'm not all these identities that I identify with. I can sense and feel like a oneness, a unity that's there. And if I don't see that unity and feel that unity and realize that unity, then I'm just, even if I have, this religion stamped on my forehead, I'm wearing this uniform, I'm not moving through this world with genuine truth and realization. And so Krishna's saying, oh, we just did the whole Gita for the whole month. And again and again and again, he's giving all these qualifications about being even-minded, realizing Krishna behind everything, this super soul, the Paramātmā. This is also like really big. When you get these kind of realization, that's why like we know so many devotees, but among them we see people that have Brahman realization, that have Paramātmā realization. And so they're moving through this world with a kind of peace and clarity and kindness towards every living entity. Then we say, wow, they're really onto something. And when the mind is like that, then it can become absorbed in chanting the holy name. It can become absorbed. Did you do Tṛṇād yesterday? Are you going to do that today? You did yesterday.
We're in it.
You in the middle of the Trinity. So that verse is what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said is our Siddha Pranali. That's our ticket to perfection, right? That's our path to perfection. Is that
Ticket to
verse.
paradise, you might call it.
And there it's saying you need to be more tolerant than a tree, more humble than a blade of grass. That's Brahman and Paramātmā realization right there. Like that, a person that's, when you have that, then you can kirtanaya sadahari, right? I don't need any respect for myself. I respect all others. That's Brahman and Paramātmā realization. That gives you a peaceful mind. And then you can absorb it. They can become absorbed. And then the growth will be quick, But so much of it is trying to become receptive to the mercy that's there in the name, become receptive that's there in the form of the deity, receptive to the Bhagavatam's message, receptive to the deity form, receptive to the Sangha of devotees. It's there. We're in it. But it's kind of like there's something between us and becoming absorbed in it. And so we need to really work on those levels as well. And then it'll become more than theoretical. It'll really start to open up.
Is that okay?
It's a wonderful question.
CJ. Let's hear it for CJ Haribol.
What does CJ stand for?
What does CJ stand for? Christopher James. Okay. The parents probably thought that one out. Okay, we'll call him Christopher James, but we'll call him CJ for short. Okay, back to James Christopher, JC. JC works, CJ. JC works too. If they would have flipped it.
They would have flipped it. We could have called them up, but maybe we can get them.
Oh, their parents.
Can we get your parents on the phone?
Oh, look who's here. It's Maya. Oh, Maya.
Welcome, Maya.
How are you? You having fun?
Yes.
Good weekend?
Here. Yes.
Good. Excited about your great kirtan last night. What is this girl? If you don't know Maya, she just stumbled upon our teacher training in India. I don't know how you found it out. Oh, because I boosted the post on Instagram. She signed up for it, and it's as if she's been practicing from lifetimes on those cartels, because I still can't play them. And then yesterday she was playing the mridanga like it was from a previous life too. It's unbelievable. You're unbelievable. And it was almost like Bhakti. We were saying yesterday how we are just addicted to the material world. And we're actually naturally addicted to Krishna. We're naturally addicted to God. We're naturally like metal filings and Krishna's the magnet. That's normal. But we've got some unwanted things in the heart that are keeping us from that strong attraction. But the things that you were doing yesterday, or since I've met you, it's like you could pick up all these things as if you were some Bengali lady in your last life, and you pick up all this stuff.
Some theories she might be George Harrison.
She could be George Harrison. Coming back. All right, what's your question, dear Maya? How old are you, Maya? How old are you? 23. 23.
Does that work out?
When did you come to India?
January 22 or 23. It'll be 3 years this January.
Okay.
2.5.
What's up,
You have
Maya?
a question for us.
So my question is, and I thought it was interesting that you brought up this term with CJ's question, but how to preach as a neophyte devotee,
To preach as a neophyte.
or at least to share Krishna consciousness in a way that honors Srila Prabhupada and the Guru Parampara, when I feel like I'm someone that has low knowledge and low realization.
Okay, that's a very good question.
Yeah. When people prove their realization, I think it turns people off. And if people poke at you, see, because when me and Kaustubha, we were just like thrown into the thrown into the mix as, quote, preachers. We were like,
Mhm.
that was our job. We preached to people. And the more you preach to people, especially if you're preaching to smart people, thoughtful people, and we're just like 21 years old or 22 years old and don't know much about anything, it was very easy to dismantle all our arguments. So it's a good thing to go and to not necessarily like debate in an aggressive way, but like really important to really understand why you believe in God. Why are you believing Krishna as God? Why it's good to really go through all the why you think it's important to control your senses. To have those realizations, some people don't get them in a lifetime, you know. But it's important if you're on this path to really work out all those kinks in your mind. I like to journal about them, write about them, talk to myself, go on for walks and talk to myself, play the devil's advocate on myself and try to defeat my other self, because people are going to poke at you and you have to have a good explanation, or else you're just going to be a pretender, who doesn't understand. So the safest thing, and to this day I'm like that too, I speak according to my realization. I tell them why I am joyful in bhakti. I tell them what I like about, appreciate about bhakti. Now, there's certain things about bhakti that are sort of promises in the distance that I don't quite even understand myself. And sometimes I even hear devotees argue about those things. And I feel like saying to them, do you guys even understand? You're arguing about something you'll never be able to even prove to each other. And you're making offenses. You're missing the ABCs of being kind and not criticizing. And you're jumping over to some esoterica and arguing and criticizing. Why not just bring it back to, let's see if I can control my senses. Let's see if I can control my mind. Let's see if I can speak to people as if they have God in their heart. And so, like Kaustubha was saying earlier, he goes, some of this stuff, you got to grow into that. You got to try, you got to endeavor, you got to read, you got to imbibe your consciousness in the thoughts, and you got to journal and work it out. But sometimes you have to also grow into it. A lot of the philosophy didn't make sense at 20, but made sense at 40 after I popped out a few kids. I didn't pop out anybody. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It made sense when I had kids. And then as the kids got older, or I'm in this other season of my life, other parts of the philosophy made a lot of sense. You see a person that you love at a young age goes through some tragic illness. Other parts of the Bhagavatam come to life. And the Bhagavatam is one of these books, the Bhagavad-gītā is one of these books that's always setting forth flower. Like, now that makes sense. Now that makes sense. Like, even my 11-year-old, he understands a little bit of the philosophy, but it's not going to fully make sense to him. But when he goes through puberty, another thing will make sense. When he goes through his 20s, another part of it will make sense. So we just on a regular basis have to imbibe that. Preach according to your joy. Speak according to your joy. And people will pick up on your joy. The best thing you could do, I think, to influence a person to step up their game is to be really, really happy in your game.
Be happy.
Be happy in your bhakti. I think that's important. I think the biggest thing we got going for this podcast, and more than one person has said it this weekend to me. He goes, I love your and Kaustubha's dynamic together.
We're happy.
Yeah, we're happy. We're happy in our bhakti. I really like being a devotee. And you really like being a devotee. And we like each other as devotees, And I think people like to see joy and happiness in a friendship, in their spiritual passion. I like to see other religions happy in their joy. You know what I mean? I don't like to see argumentative, debate winning. He crushed him and, he dismantled him. I don't want to see that. Maybe when I had a little bit of an ego when I was young, I'm like, I want to hear that devotee, annihilate that whatever other street preacher. I don't want to see that. I want to see people joyful on their spiritual pursuits. And that is very, very attractive.
Good answer.
Yeah. And you're doing it, by the way, with your singing too. You're engaging what you do well. You're engaging your God-given gift in the service of God. And people see your joy, and people see your happiness, and you're probably appreciating, wow, I'm doing what I did 5 years ago, but I'm doing it not for my ego. Oh, sure, there's a little ego in there, but I understand it now, and I'm trying to work around that ego and push it out of the way and just sing as an offering. And your singing will become more joyful, because singing, doing something you're good at, can ruin your life also, because it can be riddled with competition, greed, envy of other people who might sing better than you. You know, some people that are exponentially better than you'll never be as good as them or never as famous as them. Doing what you're good at is not necessarily a win, but doing what you're good at in service of the Lord, it's that ego that's always the glass in the soup. One time I was making soup, and a big pot of soup. Took me forever to make this soup. And I went to reach for a herb that was in a big glass jar, and the thing exploded, shattered. And I was like, did it go in the soup? I mean, I've been working hard on this soup. I should just stir it, pretending like it didn't happen. And after about 10 minutes of stirring that soup, I was like, no, I can't do it. If there's a little piece of glass in that soup, the whole soup is ruined. Kill the ones you love. No. So the ego is the glass in the soup of our joy. And so Krishna gives us this ability to move that ego aside so we can just do what we normally do and do it in a joyous way.
Ego is the glass in the soup of our joy.
Just made that up. You like it? You like that? You keep it. You keep that. Kaustubha, tag. We're like tag team wrestlers, aren't we? Tag, you're it.
Okay.
You take it.
There's an interesting dynamic when one gets some spiritual, when their faith kind of manifests and they adopt a new religious faith or practice. And that is that, and it's kind of silly, it's strange in one sense, but it's almost universal. And that is that we begin to think that we're very special because we think that we understand things that other people don't understand. And therefore we're kind of especially blessed and in the immature state that we think that makes us better, and we start to look down at everybody else. And so that's, we kind of have a clear definition of what it's one thing that is wonderful about Vaishnavism, about Bhagavatam, about our acharyas and what they've laid out, is that in many places this is laid out. It's there in Bhagavatam, it's there in the Nectar of Instruction, it's there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, this description of what is the neophyte devotee, or the kanishta, what is the kind of in between, the madhyam, and then what is like the uttama adhikar, with the uttama bhakta, the very advanced devotee. And it breaks it down in consistent ways, but also different ways, describing the difference between these three. But what it does is it gives us a really clear understanding of what a neophyte devotee is. And what it does is, what it clarifies for us is, this is what I need to focus on. This is what I need to transcend as soon as possible. You can't hurry love, but you can get busy about getting off the neophyte platform. And so we need to be able to see it in ourselves, see the symptoms of it in ourselves. And so one thing is, there are especially two things that are said about the neophyte devotee: that their faith is weak. It said it's soft. I think it says I think the word is komala shraddha, like it's not firm yet, that faith. And the other thing is that the knowledge is also weak. Now, the knowledge is also not well developed. And so that is, again, it's just like a creeper. It's very tender in the beginning, but if the creeper doesn't realize what I need to be protected, then it's going to be very vulnerable. And so we can really focus on these things. You say, how can one preach? And that's wonderful. Raghunath and I were kind of like, that was how we got brought up. It's kind of like, now preach, go out and preach. And I think, probably both of us did it in ways where we really lacked realization. And I think the movement was kind of just moving kind of fast at that point. Everything was kind of really fast. Maybe now we can hopefully do it just as enthusiastically, but like we can go into it like better prepared. What happens on the Madhyam level is it says one develops kripa, that one becomes merciful. That's the difference. You go from kind of this self-centered, I am special, I am specially blessed, I have this unique relationship with God that others don't have. And then you begin to realize, no, I'm just one little person, and every one of these other souls is just a little soul like me, and we're all kind of equal, right? Um, and now you're beginning to grow into the Madhyam Bhakta, and the Madhyam Bhakta has this kind of clarity about understanding just how to relate to each different kind of person. That with the senior, more advanced spiritualists, they serve them, they show them great respect, and they serve them. And to those that are kind of like their peers, they develop nice, respectful friendships. And to those that are even more new to it than themselves, then they have this kripa. They have this this sense of how can I help? How can I serve? You know, and that's where it's we want to have that in a genuine way. If we're preaching, but not based on that, but based on some Kanishta type of illusion or attachment, I want to outshine the others. I want to prove how great I am. That kind of thing. And I know that kind of thing, when especially when I was beginning, that it was all that stuff was thickly blended into it, you know. Then you're still operating on the Kanishta platform, and you won't. The Kanishta really can't preach. Is that the preaching is coming through that compassion, through that kripa. And if that kripa isn't in us, then in one way, maybe externally, we can introduce people to stuff, just like anyone can. You know, a Vartma Padarshika guru can be like just anyone that has no, but to really become an instrument of God's grace, we have to have God's mercy in our heart, right? We have to kind of be able to represent the compassion that God has in his heart. We need to actually feel that. And so again, it's something that we can't make happen for that to arise in us, but we can act in knowledge of it, um, recognizing our own shortcomings, and then we're preaching. You know, then we're actually, then we are an instrument of compassion, and the more that compassion doesn't just become something that I am acting on behalf of, but then I'm actually acting with, then we're becoming an advanced devotee, you know. And so just consider those things. One, our knowledge should become stronger, and our faith should become stronger. Knowledge can become stronger just by hearing, you know. And we should understand knowledge. When we say knowledge, it doesn't necessarily mean um, like like um, academic knowledge, but knowledge means a really clear understanding of who I am, a real clear, in who every jiva is in one sense, a really clear understanding of what God is or who God is, and a really clear understanding of what this material energy is, and my own vulnerabilities towards it, and my own potential to transcend it. Uh, if we understand that simply and clearly, then we've got knowledge. And again, it's just really try to. It's really hard for us to see the soul in every living being. It's really hard for us not to transcend the neophyte illusory misconceptions of judging everybody based on their body, on their dress, on their age, on their, you know, all these, to see through that. You know, when we say see the soul in everyone, it doesn't mean that we're seeing a little glowing thing in their chest, but it means that we've kind of we're seeing through the eyes of knowledge, so that um, we're not moved by the externals the way that most people are. We're moved by the truth, uh, by the spiritual reality. We just have to keep reminding ourselves of that. Keep reminding ourselves. Keep bringing that up in our awareness. Keep reflecting on it, and just that endeavor will help us so much. So it's just like anything in bhakti. It's coming through the grace of Krishna. It's coming through the grace of the Bhagavatam, the holy name, through the devotees especially. And that'll grow in you. But be aware. Just try to be aware of that. Try to really be aware of and that means that whether it's just happening in our mind or it's happening in our behavior, seeing our own tendency to see everyone as a body. Essentially, that's the neophyte mentality, and it's just always trying to root it out, always trying to transform it, purify it, and see the soul. And then the simple things you say will touch people much more. Sometimes, there's that great book about well, it was about two people, right? It was about Vishnu Jan Swami and Jayananda Prabhu, that Radha Damodar Vilas, that was called. It had interviews with lots of devotees, especially about Vishnu Jan Swami, who was such a new devotee. But even right from the beginning, he had this way of kindness towards everyone and really seeing the good in everyone, really trying to fan that spark in everyone. And he was an incredible preacher. He to this day, right? So many people we know, oh, he changed my life. Oh, he was incredible. And they just can't stop glowing about him and how he touched their lives. So it's like that, it's about trying to, everything has so much to do with how we see other people and how we respond and treat other people. So I think that's where focus can go.
Is that good?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Maya. Glad you're here this weekend.
How are we doing on time here?
We got
Time for one more?
good. So, who's next?
Yeah.
Shovel
there.
of Mercy. That's a good name.
One of the best names.
Fill him up with Bhakti, Shovel of the Mercy. How are you?
I'm wonderful.
You
So-
seem very joyful.
Yeah. Well, that's thanks to both you and Kaustubha and Mara. You
Yeah.
just, the gratitude and love and just appreciation I have for both of you and Mara for really showing us Vaishnava care and really giving us enthusiasm and sharing your knowledge has just been, every year I come back, and Kaustubha, yesterday you shared in class that, it was dense and it was full and it was beautiful. And you're like, maybe you're not going to get it all. And the beautiful thing for me is every year I come here, I do pick up a little bit more. And I feel the growth. I feel the shedding. I feel more saturated. And it's that repetition, the patience that you have with us. And Raghu, your storytelling, just that enthusiastic side of me, you empower me with that. And so between the two of you, between this knowledge and this deepening and this this heartfelt love of Krishna, and then through your storytelling, it just really has elevated my practice. So
Which one do you like better? Curious. Just curious. Don't answer. Answer after he leaves. Just kidding. Totally not kidding. Totally not kidding.
You better answer right.
Totally kidding.
You want to
Not
come back
kidding.
next year? Well, we got a room for you with the sheep. So
How can we serve you?
well, my question has a short backstory. First, it's Kārtika. So it's such a sacred time for deepening devotion through offering and service. And I've been reflecting on how to give in charity. There was an episode, Kaustubha, a few years ago where you shared some beautiful charities that are Vaishnava charities. We're also Kishori and Shamya Pras every Tuesday, and I highly recommend this to everybody. Like, we do a reading group with Krishna book, and we just read the chapter with, I'm going to hopefully say this right, King Nṛga.
King Nṛga.
King Nṛga. It's a good one. Good story.
And he gave in the wrong way and suffered a karmic result. So I've heard different things within Bhakti, we should only give to devotees, or we should give to anyone in need, or we have to be careful with giving. And whether it's through Lakshmi or it's time and talent, my question really is, how can we give during Kārtika in a way that's generous and heartfelt, but also spiritually discerning, so that our giving truly pleases Krishna?
Very
Good
interesting.
question. Good question.
Good
How to give with discernment. It's like the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad-gītā. Charity in the Guṇas. Right? Because it's obvious that we can give to people. We used this analogy yesterday. Sometimes you give to people. They're in this desperate situation. You give to them, and the following month, they're still in a desperate situation. Whereas better to maybe teach them how to handle their money better than just give them money. So sometimes we need to teach a horrible analogy, how to fish instead of giving them fish. But you can extend that to a non-fishing analogy. But we say give it to qualified people. We're going to use it. First, you have to get to this realization that there is a greater good. And we're convinced that the greater good is giving people knowledge. Yesterday, we used the example of the dream. I'm getting chased by wolves. There's a gun right ahead. How should I get rid of those wolves? And someone's saying, well, dive for the gun, spin around and shoot them all. No, that's not how you get rid of the wolves. You get rid of the wolves by waking up from the dream. Right? We don't just try to. He's like, where's it going with this hunting analogy?
That'll work.
Right?
Yeah.
So the idea, befriend the wolves? No. The idea is that the dream world is always going to have pluses and minuses. We're going to try to do some good, and then it causes some other pain somewhere else. You try, but to actually give a person knowledge is the highest welfare work you can give someone, because that knowledge is useful when they have, and then when they have not. It's useful when they're healthy. It's useful when they're dying. It's actually makes a person transform. It's giving important needs of the heart as opposed to the urgent needs of the heart. And so giving knowledge is the best thing we can do for ourselves, for our family, for our loved ones. You know, I think I'm going to take my kids to Disney World. Hey, give them spiritual knowledge. Yeah, you take them to Disney World too. That's fun. Give them spiritual knowledge. Become spiritually God conscious yourself. That's the best thing you can do for everybody that you love. You become God conscious. Best thing you can do for your family, best thing you can do for your town, best thing you can do for your city, best thing you can do for the world is you become very God conscious. Because you being joyful, like Maya was asking this question, how do you preach to people? You become God conscious. You just become joyful. You don't even have to speak. You don't have to preach. I think it was Thomas Aquinas who'd said, live and sometimes speak. The way you live. I see Kaustubha. I see the way he lives. I want to be like him.
Should I stop speaking?
Yeah, that's where I was going with that. Sometimes speak. Sometimes speak. When you want to appreciate me, then you can speak.
Okay.
But by how we live. So that's that's one way to do. So you want to give to people who know how to handle resources and not just blow resources. Or you want to give to people that you feel like they are distributing information, they're distributing knowledge, they're distributing, sacred literature, they are worshiping Krishna, and giving that highest thing. It could even be, I want to buy a case of Bhagavad-gītas and I want to give them out myself. Maybe that's the charity. Because I feel like this Bhagavad-gītā changes people's hearts. It changes people's lives. It makes people give up bad habits. It makes people change their thoughts. So there's so many ways to give, but not necessarily the ways of people who are going to, let's face it, I could give to an alcoholic. Very times there's situations where a parent, watches their child go through alcoholism or drug addiction, and then they get sent to prison. And the kid will call up, hey, you got to bail me out of jail. That seems charitable. Is it actually going to help them? No, it won't get them over their addiction. Oftentimes, it enables their addiction. And so sometimes in the way of wanting to help, you end up hurting further. You give to charity someone who's going to spend it on drugs to ruin their life, or to get in a car and drive into innocent people. Right? So we have to be very careful how we give. And therefore we say, use it to give knowledge. It's the highest welfare work that we can do for the world. I'm convinced. Because people are directionless.
I'm with you. I'm convinced.
You with me? Don't
Yeah.
speak. Shh. Sometimes speak.
When?
Okay, we're gonna wind it up today, everybody. You just live. You're living very good. You just live.
I do.
Kaustubha, now speak.
Okay, thank you. Now, so how much time do we have?
Very short.
So the story of King Nṛga. Actually, in what you said, he gave in the wrong way. In one sense, he gave in just the right way. It's a story of this. He was this incredibly wealthy king, and he had this really dharmic kind of way of seeing the world and his duty in the world. Part of that was charity, and it's a fact that this is considered a serious thing that is for householders, for people that work in the world. It's actually considered part of the dharma to give in charity. Without that, you're really not performing it. And it's so essential because it's kind of just like, if we boil everything down, essentially what we're doing is practicing being a giver rather than a taker. And so in one sense, it's just the most fundamental way to give in charity. Take some of your own wealth, say, not for my enjoyment, to help others. And so it's a crucial thing. But it can be done with different motives. And it can be commonly, the Vedas are teaching, do it when you give charity, because it's kind of like hanging that carrot out. Give charity because if you do it, you're going to get incredibly good karma for it. But that becomes the motive on the low level to get you off that really low level. It's like, okay, I'll give, and I'll become accustomed to the idea of giving. But that in Bhakti, we're like, no, it's gotta come higher. We can't continue on that because we'll go up and down in the material world forever unless we come to a higher platform. And that's why what the Bhagavatam is teaching through that story is come higher. And it's saying, don't have faith in the practice of cultivating good karma as a path towards happiness and contentment and satisfaction. Because even if you do it just right, if that's your motive, it can collapse on you. And that's the story of King Nṛga, right? Because it was saying he was giving to very qualified brahmanas, to people that are really of a very high caliber person. The truth speakers, the detached people, the people that know how to take wealth and make the best use of it because they have such clear, lucid minds and such detachment. And they're holy people. They're religious. They got knowledge, they got realization, all of these good qualities. Give to someone like that, and it's going to be engaged in the best way. And so he was giving to these very high qualified, and he was giving them like a lot. Like the cow is like the best thing you can give, right? It's just, it just does so much good for you, And he was giving, the way it describes it, it says he was giving more cows than you can count. And the cows were like, they're healthy, full of milk. They were decorated with gold on their horns and their hooves and jewelry. I think they were. He was so, in one sense, he couldn't have on the material level. What he was doing would accrue such good karma. It's like you can't even calculate. It was just like opening up the doors to the higher planets and just going right through. But it wasn't even, there's no intention on his part. It was hardly could even count it as a mistake on his part. But he gave like tons and tons of cows to this Brahmin, and he gave tons and tons of cows to that Brahmin. And one of the cows went from one Brahmin to the other Brahmin. And one of the Brahmins said, hey, what happened to my cow?
No.
Right?
No. What happened was.
No.
No.
You don't speak. Live. Live.
He gave to one Brahmin.
Yeah.
And some of those cows snuck over to the other Brahmin's place.
That's what I said.
And then he gave those cows that went there.
He gave
it away. He gave it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was a complicated. It was just one cow.
Was it just one?
Yeah.
Okay. One of those cows just wandered over, and he gave away a cow that he had already given to somebody else.
Right. and so that created
So here's the question: if he was so evolved, why did he care so much about that cow? He's like, listen, I'll give you 1,000,000 cows for that cow.
Why? Because
Hi, Kaustubha.
because to illustrate this point.
What point? Okay, what point?
Yeah, and that's where we're getting. There was this conflict between these two brahmanas. They didn't actually, in the Ramayana, it tells this story, and it says that they cursed him. In the Bhagavatam, they don't get cursed. It was just his own karma from messing up, right? Even though he really, it's like you're giving millions and millions of cows, and one little one wanders over. It's a message that's saying, when it comes to trying to cultivate good karma in this world for the purpose of your own material prosperity and enjoyment, don't have faith in that being a safe path.
Okay.
Even you make one little mistake, it costs. Whereas the path of bhakti is an entirely different thing, because you hear in the next canto, in the 11th canto, that when you're practicing bhakti, unlike these other paths, you can be running blindfolded. Like, imagine if you just put on a blindfold and just started running.
Running as fast as you could.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But it's saying in bhakti, you can run with your eyes closed and you'll never trip. You're never, because you're protected by Krishna on this path, because your intention is entirely not for yourself. That's the key difference. And so Raghunath mentioned 17th chapter of Gita, wherein it's described, charity in the different modes. And in the mode of goodness, it's always done. It's mentioned it's given to the proper person, and it's given at the proper time, and it's given without any expectation of a result for oneself. That's in the mode of goodness. And in the mode of passion, it's given with the idea I want something in return, or it's given begrudgingly. And in the mode of ignorance, it's just like completely
Just throw out money
anywhere.
anywhere.
It's just like you're just doing it all wrong, giving it to the wrong organization that's into whatever. So, but then that chapter ends with this interesting way. It gets into this Om Tat Sat, right? So it talks about how to do austerity, several important aspects of spiritual practice. Eating is mentioned first, charity, austerity, and I forget the
penance.
Well, penance is the austerity. Then it ends with this Om Tat Sat. The idea is that when the priests do the sacrifices, or people are doing some holy thing, they chant this Om Tat Sat. Om means it's like that's Krishna, right? That's calling for the presence of divinity through that sound. Tat means that one, him, and Sat means it's on the level of truth. It's on the level of eternity. That my act of my penance, or my act of my charity, may it be not for me, but for him. Om Tat, and then Sat. And it's Sat because if I wanted some material reward, that's there for a moment and then it's gone. It's not on the platform of eternity. It's not on the platform of truth. But if it's entirely given with totally selflessly, then it's on the eternal platform. It's not like what King Nṛga went through. It's like he goes first. He has to go down to the body of a lizard, then he goes up to the heavenly planets. It's not like that. It's an eternal offering. So that story was trying to say, give charity. And by the way, if we look at like texts like the Dharma Shastras, the texts that talk a lot about how to live and what your duties are, it talks a lot about charity. And when it talks about charity, it mentions that especially two places it should be given. One is to highly qualified people, especially Brahmanas are mentioned, and two, to the needy. That's also mentioned there, right? To just not there's a time where Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was going to the Shakshi Gopal temple in Orissa. And a lot of times in India, you see in front of the temples are beggars. Because they know people are thinking like, when I go in there, I'm going to pray for the things that I want. Let me give a little charity first. I'll get some good karma. Or out of compassion, out of genuine compassion. But he saw that his disciples were not giving to the beggars. And then he spoke to them and said that don't think that that by saying, you know, all my money is reserved for Krishna's service. He said, if you don't respond to people in need who are Krishna's energy as well, then actually your heart hardens up. Right? Your heart, we need to keep that heart soft, and that means when we see genuine suffering, we respond. But there's a way that we can do that. Like you mentioned, I mentioned some charities, and like there are ways that it can be done all at once to the right person, fully giving them more than just something, like giving them more than food. You give them prasad, you know, and responding to the needy. So all of these are our duty. And if we keep those principles in mind, let me try to give them the highest knowledge. Let me try to give them Krishna in one form or another. Let me give it to the right people who know how to use it best. All of those things we can do. You know, we should do.
All
Thank
right.
you, Eileen.
Thank you. Shovel in the mercy, Eileen. Harry Ball.
Oh.
We went over time because Kaustubha was
Talking.
speaking, not living.
I was living at the same time, I swear.
No, you weren't. No, you weren't. And remember, the moral of that story is you can become a lizard if you give to the wrong people.
That's right. Even really,
Because that's the story. He actually became a lizard. After that, I read that story for the first time, I never went into a pet shop with the same vision anymore. Every lizard I saw, I was like, who could that be? Who could that be? Who could that be? Sounds crazy, but who knows? Who knows what they were? Who knows what my dog was? Who knows what I was? Who knows what Kaustubha was? Thanks for joining us, everybody. Another wonderful show. Tomorrow at 8 a.m., Q&A again, my friends. Another day of Q&A. What a magical day. Glad to be here with the devotees. Glad to be here with all of you. Join us tomorrow, 8 a.m. It's a beautiful day for a beautiful day. Say hello. Oh, look at them. They're beautiful. It's a beautiful day for a beautiful day. Let the magic continue to flow in a maha. Haribo. Mwah.